Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've joined me before. Today I'm going to do the VR to Jonathan Dailey from about 4 months ago, which is last 10 decks, and we're going to go through that box back behind me and look at the last 10 decks that have come in. I think there's some interesting ones there, so let's get started. Okay, so the first deck on the list is actually 2 decks. These are ones that I saw on Instagram, and I had not linked these 2 decks as the same creator. So this one is mass market. And so the first one I ordered, so I'll show you the mass market one first. Maisie Bristol is the guidebook creator, and Orla Bird is the illustrator. So this is the Cosmic Cards, a modern astrology and tarot guide. So its focus is on astrology. Pretty big guidebook. And then the neat thing about it is it goes through the star signs, the astrological signs, and the tarot cards that align with that. So that's how it's ordered. So it's kind of neat to see. So as you're looking, as you do your card readings, you're kind of going through the astrological signs at the same time. There's also a compatibility key, so through the suits. So it talks about how swords and wands might work together, and swords and pentacles. So it's pretty neat and a pretty interesting angle. I was really drawn to the artwork as well, and the color palette. It's very minimal deck, as is the other one. But I really have been enjoying it. So I'll show you a few of the cards. It has just a really interesting, like I suppose in a way it's not a pip deck because they are illustrated. The card stock is very, very, very thin. But it's, it's easy to shuffle, and it's fairly inexpensive. And I've really been enjoying it, particularly kind of the interesting angle it's coming from. So then I got this one through, and at the same time I ordered the indie deck from the same creator, the copy without a box, because you save some money if you got the one that without a box, where the box was damaged. And she hand dyes these bags, and it's such a nice thing. You can pick your color, and then their artwork is stamped on the front here. And the quality of these cards is far superior to the other one. So here are the details. It comes with this card, and here's all the information with their Instagram and the website. Just a beautiful package to receive, and for an indie deck, quite a reasonable price as well. So what it comes with is this kind of mini guidebook, and the card color palette is quite different than the other deck, even though the art style is obviously very similar. So let's have a little flip through of this deck. So this deck is called the Avisomnia Tarot by Orla Bird. And it just is such a comforting color palette. The images have the kind of 1960s vibe to them, quite whimsical. And just really enjoyable, I would say that this one is, the minors are much more pippish than the other one. but fantastic. Look at some of the court cards and the personality that that the cards have. I would say for a pip deck, there's a lot of personality in this deck, for sure. And just the addition of the hands in the Three of Cups, you know, and just some of these very subtle touches in this deck. And I feel like that's one of the things that I really enjoy. I feel it's very restrained, right? But what we get in it is so purposeful that it makes such a beautiful, you know, beautiful piece of art. You know, like just in the Four of Pentacles, the hand just holding the pentacles like that, and the hand here balancing the scale. And it isn't hard to kind of find the meaning in these images. And yeah, so I've really been enjoying this one. And let's do a little side by side with the cosmic cards, just to compare the art styles between the two decks. They really are so different, and I'm glad to have both of them in my collection, because I really love her art style. So that's the first deck. We're counting this as two because it was a joint purchase. The first decks on the list, we have the cosmic cards and the Avisomnia Tarot. I'm just going to finish flipping through these two because I feel like I haven't seen either of these too much on Tarot Tube. Look at that sun, the detail in the sun. And I love this in the Two of Wands as well, that communication between this, oops, I'm going to get my magic wand out. Like the two eyes and the kind of meeting point in the middle. There's so much to work with in that. I think of the two, it's interesting because of the two, I would say this is the more favorite of the two decks, but this guidebook is where it's at. So maybe there's some kind of combination to do there between the two, but because I feel like for this one, I don't really read the guidebook, whereas this one, it's all about the guidebook, really. So yeah, so those were those two. So the next one on the list is also two. So I saw the Tarot of the Unknown Shadows, and then in looking on the Dark Sinner website, I think that's how you say that, I found this one, and they were both like around $20, so mass market price. I haven't used either of these too much, but I think that seasonally, their time is coming. I feel like I'm going to be using these both in October is probably going to be their months. This one comes with an instruction book, quite a lot for each one. And the issue with this one, and I did know that, but I think I forgot, is that the titles on the cards are near on impossible to read. So this is the Nine of Wands. It's very difficult to read. Wands are umbrellas, which I love. So here's our Page of Wands. See, this one's very difficult to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and write, this is our Queen of Wands, write the names of the cards clearer on the bottom. I don't know what I'm going to use for that yet, but when I start working with this deck, that's the first thing I'm going to do, so I know what card I'm looking at, because obviously it's not that clear with the image. I mean, I would say that this is the Four of Swords, but to see that four, I mean, it's so difficult. And I feel like that's really the only downside of this deck. The card stock's okay, the backs are okay. But it's just very interesting, particularly kind of using it in maybe some kind of ancestor work, or just I think in my practice where it might fit is kind of working with those guides, those ancestral guides that are not perhaps related to my direct line, but more guides that have come before, you know, and in the physical world, not, you know, not so much deity, but just kind of leaning into that wisdom from the past. And I think that this deck is going to do a really good job with that. It is just, it's such a shame about the titles. And it's an easy fix. So I'm going to do that. The majors are easier to read. So I don't think every card I will have to do that too. Mostly just in the minors. But just a really, I think, just a really beautiful deck. And one of those that I feel like stylistically I really enjoy these, you know, photography decks where something is done a little bit differently. I have quite a few. I love this. The Sun card. There's a few cards in this deck that I really enjoy. And so we will forgive it for its bad choice on the colors of, and the font choice on the titles. And I understand why the creator did it, because they wanted it to be part of the image and not like disruptive, which this huge banner, and really just, you know, so you're really just seeing the image and you're not taken away from it by reading the title. And that's fine as the creator when you are familiar with all the cards and you kind of, you know them anyway, but kind of coming in fresh where you're not too sure. It can be a, you know, hard to, you know, it can really take you out of it if you really can't figure out what the card is. And some of them are so difficult to figure out and read, and some of them are just fine, you know. So, but just, I feel like just a beautiful deck overall. I obviously like it because I've chatted through and flipped through the whole thing for you. But there's something about the wands being umbrellas too, really gives it that old-timey feel. So that is the Tarot of the Unknown Shadows. This is the Tarot of Spells and Potions. And it reminds me a little bit of the Joie de Vie in its busyness and its light color palette. It also comes with a pretty sizable little white book in a couple languages. Let's find the English, so you get about that much of the English guidebook. And it's really cute. I think it's gonna kind of come into its own, you know, right around Halloween, you know, when I want those kind of little kid trick-or-treating vibes. It's just fun. And this was, here's the backs. And it was, I think it was $18. And yeah, I feel like it's going to have a really interesting place in my collection. Kind of brings me into this world that we've got going on here. I want to see what they're up to. There's a, you know, there's kind of like a cartoon world in here, and you know, each card is kind of telling its own story. I think it's really cute. I think there's I'm pretty sure there's a typo, and I don't remember where it was. And also there's a change of font for some reason in a couple of the cards, but it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. I feel like it kind of adds to the quirkiness of this. You know, almost like one of these kind of teenage witches here, you know, put the tarot deck together and they just perhaps attention to detail, or they just thought it would be fun to have two different fonts. But yeah, it's really, I don't know, it just makes me smile, I think is where we are with this one. And I can't wait to bring it in right around when, you know, in the United States, the trick-or-treating is happening and kids are getting all excited, and, you know, it's kind of like has witchy vibes in like dressing up as a witch and having fun, you know, during the autumn season. And I think in a way it's like the first step, kind of like that kind of early, you know, that early teen feeling, that young, you know, grade school age, where kind of self-discovery happens, and do I want to be a witch, and let me dress up as this, and, you know, figuring out who you are, which is such a fun time, you know. And then there's these couple extra oracle cards that you just saw, but yeah, so that is the Tarot of Spells and Potions. And just to give you an idea of the guidebook, let's just pick a random card here, and we got Temperance. So if we look at Temperance in the guidebook is, everything goes on as usual. You have a chance to observe life from the outside, people, their communications, and relationships. If you are anxious, think a lot and cannot find a balance. Take time for yourself. Watch your sleep and nutrition. It's really interesting. I feel like there's a lot here. So I'm really excited to get to use this one, and it'll probably be coming out to play in October. The next one on the list is also two. And I guess August must have been the month to just buy decks in pairs. I hadn't quite realized that. The Raincoast Visions Tarot was the Kickstarter, and then the Tarot of Crowley I added on just out of real curiosity. I feel like I wanted it at one point, and it was out of print, so I thought I would add it on. So let's have a look at the Raincoast Visions, and I know there's different versions of this one, and this one is, I feel like some of them have had black borders, and some of them had no borders. I think there's one that's quite cartoony that looks quite different than this, but this one just spoke to me, and I really enjoyed that it had these keywords on the cards. Not a huge fan of the backs personally, with the kind of Ouija board thing going on. The cardstock is nice. It's kind of quite slippery, but yeah, but pretty interesting. I feel like sometimes I am in the mood for a deck that has both the white borders and the keywords, and this kind of, it's a very bright color palette. You know, the colors are really popping. It feels really direct, you know, and so pulling a card, you know, and kind of expanding on it, I feel like is going to be really good in a reading. And I haven't pulled this one out because it came recently, when I'm kind of feeling that feeling that energy of the forest core, which this is not. So this is not the current vibe, but I am excited to use it and get to know it. From the same creator, who is Christoph James. There are several versions of this deck as well. This is on the thinnest cardstock. Look at how that's like all 78 cards. And it's like, I'm not sure why this one, but yeah. So this is interesting. It reminds me a little bit, and I'm just looking at that first Fool card, and I wonder how it would pair with the Mouseboat, the Mouseboat Tarot or the Mouseboat Oracle, because there is kind of a similar feel to it. I don't have either of those right now, but they're definitely coming into the collection. So I feel like this one would pair really well with both of those. This is just, you know, weirdness, right? But fun weirdness, you know, to kind of see and learn from the energy. Obviously, I haven't even shuffled this one yet. I don't know where it's gonna fit in my collection yet, or how I'm going to use it, or what I'm going to think of it, but I don't know. I was just thinking about one. I was just kind of, I feel like I've seen it around and seen a few cards, and kind of this deck goes under the intriguing category. It intrigued me. So I'm interested to see how it actually reads, and, you know, the story that it has to tell. Okay, so decks 7 and 8 were also purchased together. I had gotten that huge multi-deck Hay House sale haul back in the beginning of August, and so then there was another Hay House sale, and I was like, I don't need anything, but Krista was ordering a couple of things, and this was not available when I purchased all those decks from the Hay House sale. So I asked her if she could pick me up a copy of this, and she was getting this as well. And I said, throw me on a copy of that too, because it was $10 for each of them, and then free shipping, so $20 for both. So bargain. So let's look at the Enchanted Map Oracle first. I have just been loving this Oracle vibe at the moment. I think this one in particular will pair with almost every deck in my collection. And I think the keywords are interesting. And it's beautiful. So we have solitude, education, protecting, treasure, peaks of joy, dragon's lair. I feel like it's kind of going a bit all over the place, but that kind of makes it quite able to fit in with any deck at the same time. I can see it fitting with, you know, really modern decks, and really more vintage style decks as well. The keywords are good. The guidebook has, you know, as much as you would want, you know, and not too much. The numbers are clear in the guidebook and on the card, which is nice. I just feel like this is an all-around well-produced oracle deck. It's probably not going to change your life. It's probably not going to change my life, but it will definitely bring something. This is cool. It will definitely bring something to the reading, to the table, point of discussion. Yeah, maybe another spin on what else is going on in the reading, which is fantastic and exactly what we want an oracle deck to do. So yeah, so really pleased with this. I haven't used it. It just came in last week. So I haven't used it much, but I just know it's going to fit into my collection seamlessly. So at the same time, I got the tin version of the Spirit Animal Pocket Oracle, and I do have the larger version of this deck and have had for quite a long time. And this deck and I have a an understanding. Sometimes when I'm reading with this deck, the card on its own and the keywords is enough. And then when I pull the guidebook into that, it kind of throws it off in another direction that is not really relevant, which I think has been a theme of collect, marry, and read decks for me. This is just such a beautiful size. And it works really well when I'm looking for an animal guide that is a little bit more kind of otherworldly message, kind of message from the guides above, I guess you would say, where I feel like my animal guide oracle is in the physical world, right? You're communing with, I'm just going to pull out to kind of do a little side by side. You're communing with animals that are like here, you know, where these feel a little bit more, you know, in another world, you know, like the spirit, parrot spirit, you know, where it's manatee in the physical world speaking now, you know. And I have used these two decks together to kind of bring in that spirit animal, and which is the name of the deck, which is bringing that spirit animal and then like actual animal message, you know, if that makes sense. And they do work really well together. But yeah, because I think it's interesting when we have, you know, quite kind of more than one deck that seems like it would be doing the same job, but in actual, you know, in reality, in a reading, the spirit message of an animal is very different than embodying the physical energy of an animal that's kind of in the physical plane. You know, if that makes any sense. But that's how it works in my practice. And so I kind of use them in quite a different way, you know. And I feel like this deck does its job really well. I feel like calling it animal spirit is really accurate to kind of how it comes through in a reading, you know. And I have used these cards as kind of the guide for the day, and and it does feel like this kind of spirit guide, you know, like this animal working alongside the other guides that are kind of along in, you know, in the higher realms, you know. So yeah, so this is the pocket spirit animal guide, which has this, there's something about very chunky small guidebooks that make me smile. I just enjoy it. Yeah, and I've heard some comments about the kind of accessories on some of the animals, and I enjoy them. That's all I have to say on that point. But yeah, so that is the Spirit Animal Pocket Guide by Colette Baron Reid. And you gotta see what the shuffle's like. It's little stuff, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. This is playing card size, which is like I would consider not really pocket size. I mean, it's pocket size in comparison to an oracle. I would, for my money, pocket size sits in the realm of bridge or smaller. Because, I mean, let's just put it back in its tin for a second. I don't know how big your pockets are, but my pockets are not that big. Let's compare it to an oracle card. It is not that much smaller. It's actually wider. And while you could fit a tarot deck in your pocket, your very large pocket, this to me is not pocket size. It's just a mini of the oracle deck, which I'm happy with, but I was expecting it to be smaller, if I'm being honest. Deck number 9 is the Dungeons and Dragons Tarot. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, but I bought this deck for the deck itself, and really not its association with Dungeons and Dragons at all. I saw Krista got this deck because she is doing some stuff with Dungeons and Dragons, but I was just drawn to the imagery. Now, I made some notes in the... Come down, buddy. I made some notes in the guidebook when I went through so I would know, because the names of the suits don't really mean anything to me. So this is a 6 of Wands. The 3 of Swords. I just felt like when I was looking at the images, before I got it, it's really interesting what's going on. And then the little bit that they give you, okay, and then what's charisma? So charisma is pentacles. The little bit in the guidebook that they give you, and it is a little bit for each card. So there's our King of Wands, 9 of Wands, Page of Wands. Is really good. It's got this kind of really cool energy to it. Really takes you into its world. And I am really excited to work with it. So let's just take this one for example. So we've got the 5 of Swords here. So the 5 of Swords is the 5 of intelligence, the ways in which competition breeds conflict and divides us to create suffering. And then it gives the Dungeons and Dragons kind of meaning, which is the adventurers encounter 2 nobles fighting over a magical but cursed item. That's so cool to think about, the fact that they're fighting over this thing, which appears like it's something that they're going to really want, but actually it's cursed. I mean, it just brings this kind of what I'm liking in decks at the moment, and this is going to be one that I'm going to be pulling in currently, because it's kind of adding this storybook element to the tarot, which I really love. So here's the Three of Strength. Let's look at that one because it looks interesting as well. So let's see, our strength is our wand. So our Three of Strength is expanding your circle of influence and communicating your ideas, making progress. A young paladin in training says that his order has stolen an object sacred to hobgoblins. He feels guilty and wants to steal it and give it back to them. What? You know? So it adds like a completely different element to that Three of Wands. So I'm really enjoying, just like, there's so much more here than like first meets the eye. And I am really excited to explore it for sure. And, you know, and don't feel bad at all that I'm not really using the kind of Dungeons and Dragons, or don't really know anything about it. And just kind of using it in my own way and seeing like what comes up. But maybe, yeah, I'm curious whether like Dungeons and Dragons could be my thing, and I've just never been exposed to to the right people or circumstances. Maybe that's like a little nod into my future where I'm heavily into D&D. That I feel like you become a new type of person. Neither positive or negative, just a neutral observation. This is so cool. I just love this card. Like, she has so much personality, and to me they're elves rather than fae. But I mean, I suppose elves are fae, but to me the characters are not fairies or aliens, but in the category of elf. And it's probably because of some kind of show I watched that I think probably like Game of Thrones or something. This deck does have kind of a Game of Thrones feel to it, I think. But yeah, really interesting. And the 10th deck on the list actually just came in yesterday, and that is the Lucid Minds Tarot. It came in the weirdest packaging, kind of saran wrapped. The box is kind of rose petal finish, which makes it difficult to get out of the, to open, and then the cards fall out. And also they're very tightly in there. So I actually, when I was taking them out, kind of broke the box a little bit, which will give me a little bit of a finger hold at least to remove the cards, but not thrilled about that. The cardstock quality is pretty basic and thin, but not unpleasant. So the kind of premise around this deck, this was a Kickstarter, is that each of the cards has a QR code on the back, which will open up a screen with a video with the card kind of moving, and a voice giving you both the upright and the reverse meaning of the cards. So it's kind of an interactive guidebook. And I'll see if I can insert an image of or some video of how that actually looks in action.
The Three of Wands in upright position may be indicating that you are at a point of expansion and growth in your life. You may be feeling optimistic and excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. This card may represent a new venture, opportunity, or project that you are in reversed position, may be indicating that you are feeling unsure about your future plans and goals. It may be a sign that you are not feeling confident in your ability to make decisions.
But the deck itself is actually really beautiful, I think. And there's a lot going on, and I feel like almost the guidebook meanings that that the deck gives are a little basic compared to what the expansiveness of what we have going on in the images here. And in a way, it kind of lets it down a bit, which is kind of an odd thing because the uniqueness of this deck is in that kind of interactive element, which is, I think, holding it back in a way. I feel like if you had this concept with something like the Muse Tarot with Chris Ann's writing and those stories, this would be an incredible deck. But as it stands, it feels like maybe what we're looking at here is an idea of something that's coming that is going to really blow things out of the water as far as how we interact with our cards and, you know, use the guidebooks and creating this kind of really immersive experience in our readings. But I feel like this deck hasn't really captured that whole picture. But the deck on its own, even without that element, I think it's pretty cool. I can imagine this pairing with a lot of things really well. I'm kind of curious to pull in number, I think it was number 3 on the list of recent deck acquisitions, and I think it's actually, these are like a match made in heaven, right? Like, what a good pairing these two are. Just those bright colors, and it's just beautiful to see them together. But the interactive element of this deck is just, wow, look at that. The elephant and the lion with listening and strength. Deep freeze with the 9 of Pentacles. Solitude with the 6. Education with the Hermit. Oh, it's just fantastic. 9 of Cups and Peaks of Joy. They really, it's like they really want to work together, don't they? Temperance and Balancing Act. Page of Cups with Slow and Steady. Home with the 7 Pentacles with that telescope. That's so cool. Storm Fields and the 7 of Wands. Look at these two together. Oh my gosh. Wow, right? Three of Cups, Heal the Ouch. One Ring Circus with the 5 of Cups and the woman sitting on her own on a beach. You know, it's fantastic. That is the Lucid Minds Tarot. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad to have it in just that I get to kind of try it out and play with it. And I think it's going to, yeah, I think I'm gonna enjoy it. Look at how it fits in the box, or not. That's it. It's like you're afraid to damage the cards when you get it in. It's, yeah, box is a no-no. But yeah, but the deck is a yes, which is a shame on the box because it actually is, it's like nice. It feels like it's the same, it's like the story of the deck could be told in the box because it's like, it's a near miss. It just really is a near miss. It's like so beautifully designed with the rose petal and it feels good. And, but then it was like, it was done really cheaply and then wasn't, you know, I don't know. They didn't like try and use it practically, and it just doesn't work. My feedback on that one. So that was my last 10 decks. I hope you enjoyed seeing what recently came in. Subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed yourself. So I will see you again soon. Bye for now.